Welcome to a sweaty, balls-hot Tokyo summer's day, where we're here to look at a car that at least looks a little cool. Over there. This is the brand new 2021 Toyota Yaris Hybrid. The styling of this car is certainly a step up from the boring and, well, slightly scrotal design of the previous generations. In fact, I think this car looks great, and I'm not a huge fan of the Yaris. To be fully honest with you, I've driven old versions of the Yaris and I hated them. They just did not drive well. The steering was vague, the car rolled about, the brakes were spongy, the accelerator response was really laughably bad, the car itself was really slow. Yeah, just as a driver's car, it was awful. Does that mean it was a bad car? Yes. Okay, fine, no. It was a very solid, reliable, cheap car. If you needed something with four wheels to get you from point A to point B, it was a solid car. But if you wanted something to drive for fun and enjoyment, it just sucked. And I came in today thinking, okay, this is a new one. Akio Toyota promised no more boring cars. The outside looks pretty good. Is it going to be good though, was my question. And just knowing how Toyota works and how most of their buyers are a bit older and they just want something reliable, I didn't have my hopes up. So the old Yaris was well known for its family friendliness and practicality. This car is a little different. First, this door doesn't open very wide, so if you need to get like a baby seat in or something, it doesn't work. Even for passengers, it's a little tight. And then, once you're in, as you can see, the knee room isn't great. It's not like better or worse than, let's say, a Mazda 2, but if you compare it to like a Honda Fit, yeah, it's a bit tight back here. So if you have tall children, leave them at home. So once you're inside of the car, compared to the old Yaris that I've driven, it feels really tight in here. The headroom's there, but because of the way everything's angled, it does feel tight. The passenger seat doesn't feel spacious. It feels like a small car in here. However, it feels like a sports car in here. It has the same sort of tightness that you would get in like a Mazda Miata. So in a way, it's nice, but if you want to have a spacious feeling car, this is not the way to go. The rest of the interior is actually really nice. It has that sporty appeal to it that the previous Yarises did not. The previous cars had that, like the center gauge cluster, which was pretty ugly and it looked really cheap. This car doesn't have that problem. All the materials feel fairly high quality and nothing looks cheap, nothing feels cheap. It feels Toyota quality. Nothing looks luxury either, but it's quite nice in here. It kind of resembles more of the Mazda 2 instead of like a Honda Fit. And I actually like it. As much as I hated Toyota Yarises in the past, this is actually quite nice. The only thing I don't like is the giant sat-nav screen in the center. Mazda has the screen jutting out of the dashboard as well, but it's kind of small and out of the way. This feels like it's blocking your line of sight, even if it isn't. So the only good news for practicality of this car is the trunk. It's not class leading, but it's actually pretty big. Same as usual, I'll get inside. It's pretty spacious in here. I do believe it's a bit bigger than the Mazda 2, and it's comparable to the Fit, but because of this very like big angle here, once you close the hatch, it's probably not going to be as spacious. So it is rainy season in Tokyo right now, as you can probably see and hear, so please excuse the sound of the rain as we try and continue this review. If you see some sort of contradictions in the weather, that means I have poor editing skills. So the first thing that surprised me about this car was the power. Now, it's not a light car because of the hybrid drive system, and even with the electric motor, this car only has 114 horsepower. But it goes! Like, you put your foot down and wham! You're off! You're hitting the speed limit of Tokyo immediately, and it actually thrusts you back into your seat a bit. It's actually really good fun for such a weak car. I love it. I've been driving all these small, cheap cars around Tokyo, and I kept kind of harping on about you don't need that much power in Tokyo because the speed limits are so low. I still stand by that, but yay! Power! It's actually good fun. Another interesting thing about this car is I don't notice the CVT-ness of the car. I think they kind of cover it up in terms of how the electric motor delivers power along with the engine, so it feels incredibly smooth. Like, this actually genuinely feels luxury car levels of smooth in terms of power delivery. I'm very impressed by that. So another surprising thing about this car was the steering. Old Toyota Yaris had virtually no steering feel, and the response was really bad. This car, on the other hand, there is actually steering weight. The steering is pretty quick, and there is like reasonable feedback through the wheel. Is it as good as a Mazda 2 though, is the question, and I don't think it is. I think it's pretty good in the city, but I haven't driven this out in the open mountains yet. And some part of me thinks that the feedback through the steering rack is not quite as good as the Mazda 2, but I won't know until I take this car to the mountains. In terms of driving it around the city, it's been fantastic. Just the responsiveness of the steering compared to old Toyota Yaris leaves me shocked. If we compare this to something like the Honda Fit, that car didn't have much feedback, and it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. This is clearly better than the Honda Fit, and just the nice steering and the power mode on this car, it does put a smile on your face. This is clearly much more fun than Toyotas of old. So Akio Toyota, when you said no more boring Toyotas, you guys are making a step in the right direction with this car. And of course there is a bit of a trade-off. The ride quality isn't the best. It's a bit worse than the Mazda 2, and I guess like road noise is kind of kept to a minimum. It's not that loud in here. For this size of car, there's not much you can really do about that. But yeah, if you want a smooth, comfortable Toyota-like ride, it doesn't exist in this car anymore. It's been replaced with nice, firm sportiness, which is something I quite like. But if you're an old grandmother and you want those old-style Yaris, those days are gone, and good riddance. So I'd like to deliver a conclusion from outside of the car, but this rain is not really gonna stop anytime soon. So, do I like this car? Yes, I actually like driving this car. It's the first time I've ever said I like driving a Toyota Yaris. And, you know, it's been really good fun. The power delivery is great. The feel of the car is great. Yeah, it's not that practical, but I don't really care. For me, it's all about, is the driving experience fun? And it is. This is so much more fun than like a Honda Fit. And compared to the Mazda 2, it is comparable in terms of fun. However, because this is a hybrid, it's going to be much more expensive than the equivalent Mazda 2. Yes, it's going to get better gas mileage, but we live in Tokyo. There's not that much driving to be done yearly, so the amount of gas that you save from having a hybrid compared to a Mazda 2, it's not going to be enough to offset the cost anytime soon. It's not even going to offset the cost of depreciation of the cars. So in the end, I'd still go Mazda 2. If you have the money to get a Yaris, this is a fantastic looking car, and I would not blame anyone for getting this car. This has been a fun day. This is an excellent car.